guys will make all kinds of excuses why they can't get women. Well, I'm here to tell you that your excuses don't mean shit, because I know a guy who was pimping in a wheelchair. Now today, I'm actually going to tell you the story of two different men, and these are two of the biggest pimps you will never have heard of. And I hope that they will serve as a massive inspiration to you on what is possible if you just go for it. So this first guy, Wheelchair Rob, he was an absolute pimp. Now, forget about the fact that he's just in a wheelchair for a second here. This guy was short, he was fat, he was, what would you call it? You'd say he was like Southeast Asian descent. Think of like the same skin tone as like an Indian man or a Sri Lankan man or whatever, right? Typically, white women don't go for guys like that as frequently, right? So you've got all these things kind of going against him, and then he's in a wheelchair. He was disabled from like the hips down, so he couldn't. It was actually a progressive degenerative disease, so he got more and more disabled as he went on. So he had one of those wheelchairs with like a little joystick on it to move him around and shit. He could use his arms and stuff, but yeah, his legs are basically gone. His wife was an absolute smoking hottie. Like 8, 9 out of 10 by basically anyone's standard. And she was absolutely lovely. She absolutely adored this man. They got married. He put her on OnlyFans. They started making a bunch of money on OnlyFans. He would be the photographer because he could move around in a wheelchair, take photos and stuff. And he ended up being a photographer for a bunch of other OnlyFans girls, getting them in the house, getting them naked, occasionally having sex with them. He had his woman in like a dom-sub relationship, even while he was in a wheelchair. She was being the sub and he was being the dom, and he was administering punishments and floggings and these kind of things from a goddamn wheelchair. The guy had his woman under lock, and she absolutely loved, cherished, and adored him. I know because she had his kid. And unfortunately, he passed away. It was absolutely tragic, but she loves that baby so goddamn much because it reminds her of him. Now, Rob used to have this amazing move that he would pull off in clubs and bars when he went out. He would take his wheelchair, he'd be sitting around there with his friends, and he'd find the hottest woman in the bar, and he'd take his little joystick on his wheelchair, and he'd plow his wheelchair right into the hottest girl in the club. Not running her over, but he'd deliberately bump into her, right? And when she turned around to see what the hell had happened, he would pretend to be super retarded. He would make noises like, ah, ah, ah. And these girls, they would turn around, see this, and be like, oh my God, oh, I'm so sorry, can I help? I didn't mean to hurt you, And then he would break character, look at her and be like, hi, I'm Rob, how you doing? Just got him every goddamn time. He just charmed the pants off of people like that. And that is why I think everybody should know the story of Wheelchair Rob. Now, some guys show you something that you didn't even think was possible. It's like the 4-minute mile of relationships. Once you've seen it done, you start going about replicating it yourself because you know that it is now possible. But if no one had shown you that it was possible, you wouldn't have believed it could ever be done. I knew this guy back in Australia called Jimmy, and he had a 5-partner relationship in the countryside of Australia. Basically, he had 5 wives. Now, they weren't wives in like the legal sense. He had 5 women that he was in a relationship with, where he had a dom-sub BDSM style relationship with them. They all had a collar. If anyone in this dom community would be familiar with this, they were all collared. So they all had a collar with a padlock on them, signifying they were his. They all entered into BDSM style contracts, basically outlining each other's duties in the relationship itself. And these 5 women absolutely worshipped the ground that this man walked on. So Jimmy and his 5 wives, they all lived on this rural property in Australia. Each of the women had their own little cabin, and then they had the main house as well. So women they could go off and spend some alone time, or he could send them to spend alone time if they were acting up or weren't behaving properly, and then they'd be rewarded back into the big house where all the family could hang out and live together. And basically, the guy just had orgies all the time with all of his loving, adoring wives. All 5 of them. Yeah. I personally think that that is the situation that every man should strive to. And he was getting them all pregnant and stuff as well. His family, as we'll call it, triggered feminists so much that he had his Instagram and his Twitter account taken down again and again and again and again, purely by posting Christmas photos. He didn't say anything outlandish. He just posted a photo of him and his 5 adoring wives all looking up to him, worshipping the ground that he walked on. Everyone looking so happy together. And angry, ugly feminists, and let's be fair, simpy white knights, could not stand the idea that, like, a 50-year-old man, by the way, I forgot to mention that a 50-year-old man could be in a simultaneous, loving, adoring relationship with 5 women who were all about at least 20 plus years younger than him, all of them, and they all were there consensually, of their own free will, and they all absolutely loved him. So if these 2 men can pull off what most people would be considered impossible, then I think you can at least get a girlfriend. So find out what to do if you're not getting any box in this video here.